Okay, so camp, back to that, right? So as well, we know from the 1980s, this is something that's drifted now from gay culture to pop culture. And we can question this if it's still doing the same thing, if it's camp light. Because now we're seeing cisgender women use it to challenge categories around gender in ways that we could say is feminist, or we see cisgender men challenge it in ways to say that we could say is feminist or empowering or gender bending, these kinds of things. The critique is that it's camp light, meaning these, if the people aren't actually from marginalized communities, are they really challenging it, or etc. Does it still work to challenge? I'm going to go on basically the way life is right now, with everything is hard and everything else. I'm going to say, let's give every category the benefit of the doubt that it does something interesting. It does something. There's some possibility in it. I'll just say this: any pop culture is compromised. Anything that makes money is compromised. It's never going to be a perfect challenge to a system. But we're surrounded by pop culture a lot more than we're surrounded by textbooks, right? So these are the spaces or the places where we might actually be able to play around and make space for different ways of living. So what you see at the right, so I've been teaching this camp topic for years. And then last year when the Met Gala did camp as their theme, everybody who'd taken this class was like, oh my God, Mana, it's camp, right? Ahead of the times. But yeah, so look up Met Gala camp. You'll see extraordinary examples of people playing with the idea of camp. At the top right, we see Cardi B. She was extraordinary. And we'll talk about like why that's camp, right? And below you see the one who coined the term camp, Susan Sontag, said the whole point of camp is to dethrone the serious, right? And I don't know if you can see it, but in the dress, it's this huge fluffy dress and it says less is more on it. So it's like ironic, right? It plays with categories. So the 4 elements that we're looking for are hyper-femininity. I put that in quotes because you can also camp masculinity with hyper-masculinity. Incongruous juxtaposition, that means putting masculine and feminine next to each other. So you see in the Cardi B picture, she's not just a woman, she's over the top woman. Her hips are exaggerated, her dress is, her train is splayed out. She's not just a woman, she's a queen, right? That's over the top. Incongruous juxtaposition would be this person in a tuxedo with also a dress. It's showing that if genders can be mixed, they're not pure. Costumey camp, when something's over the top, and it shows us that it's a costume, it triggers that notion in our head, hey, wait, this is artificial. And then part of it is parody. So again, the point of camp is to dethrone the serious. It's not to make fun of women, it's to make fun of categories of women that have kept us tight, or kept us and categories of men also. If I don't know if you remember the very first week when I showed that video about Save the Bros, right? It's a parody that allows us to sort of make fun of categories that we take as natural or take for granted and sort of bust them open and play with them a little bit. So when I first started teaching this, most of my work was on Gwen Stefani. So I used Gwen Stefani in a lot of examples. I'll throw an example in here too. But let's look at those 4 categories again. Hyper-femininity or hyper-X, whatever that we're trying to make fun of. Over the top, exaggerated femininity, or exaggerate anything you're camping, right? So Gwen Stefani with pink hair and a pink dress, she's not naturally feminine, she's like overly feminine in that case. It's triggering that I'm playing dress up as a girl, right? I know Nicki Minaj gets a lot of criticism, but that girl can do camp, right? So her dressing up as a Barbie, she makes certain faces that shows me like she's in on the joke. She's being ironic, right? She's over the top and sort of playing with these categories, right? Lady Gaga at the Met Gala also went, in full gown, full pink. This is over the top and exaggerated. So that's hyper-femininity. Incongruous juxtaposition. So we see it maybe more overtly now, but when ironically, we see it more overtly now. But when this was third wave feminism was just starting, like in the 90s, bands like No Doubt, like Gwen Stefani, where she was feminine and masculine and a tomboy at the same time, right? Or Billie Eilish is very masculine looking in her clothing, but her singing is so feminine, right? That's the incongruous juxtaposition. That's what shows you there's not natural or essential matching up. It kind of plays with both of them. So it's masculine alongside feminine, the both and. So like toughness, but still a girl. It expands the definition of girl, but it also shows masculinity as a performance. Here's some more recent examples, right? So from the Met Gala, you have Jared Leto, like carrying his own head, like in the Gucci lineup, wearing a gown, right? This was, I want to say Christian Soriano, so like literally half masculine, half feminine in that. And let me play you some No Doubt circa 1995, just so we can start where it started and then catch up to the present. So hold on, let me set that up. Okay, so this is like No Doubt in the mid 90s. This is when I discovered them, and you got, many of you were being born. But what I want you to look for is all the ways that she's feminine and all the ways that she's masculine. And then how does she play with these ideas of masculine and feminine being built in? So you'll see she's playing with the audience here.
I said, let's have all the boys sing with me. What you doing? What you doing? Okay, boys. Okay, girls, like this. Goes like this. I'm just a girl. I'm just a girl. I said, boys only, girls. Shut up. Are you ready, boys? I'm just a girl. I'm just a girl. I'm just a girl. I'm just a girl in the world. Gotcha. Gotcha. Come on. That was funny. Wait a minute. Huh. What about all the cute, sweet, charming, innocent, sexy girls? Would you like to sing? Okay, girly girls, sweet girls. Okay. It goes like this. Fuck you, I'm a girl. Fuck you, I'm a girl. Fuck you, I'm a girl. I'm just a girl in an art. 'Cause that's all that you let me be. Oh! Just a girl living in captivity. Double up on wax the world so.
Okay, so, oh wait, my video is gone. So if we were in class, I would want to hear all of your ideas and opinions about that. I'm hoping you saw that she looked very feminine with the way her hair and makeup was. Her voice is high pitched. She played like I'm just a girl, but then she was masculine with her, you know, she was wearing like Dickies, and she's in a punk rock band, and she was playing with having all the boys sing "I'm Just a Girl," and then playing with all the little innocent girls yelling "Fuck you, I'm a girl." So she's playing with these masculinity and femininity and the concepts as more fluid at this time. Now we're just flat out a lot more even queer about it, but for the 90s this was a big deal. So the third element of camp then is the costumes, right? This costumes that seem cartoonish definitely signals to you this is a performance. This is not a real, like, inherent thing of masculinity or femininity. We are performing this, right? So Gwen Stefani's hairdos shows that she didn't wake up like that. She's performing woman. She's performing feminine. She's performing these characters, right? And definitely as we get to camp, right, Katy Perry at the Met Gala as a chandelier, right? She's like, literally women are supposed to be shiny, whatever else. She's playing with that concept. The costume's amazing, right? Some people actually as framed, literally signaling to you that this is a play, this is costume, right? Yeah, the Met Gala was very fun for me to watch. Okay, and finally, you saw this in that video with Gwen Stefani as well, is that parody element. So we're making fun of traditional roles in ways that loosen them up, make more space, right? Like Katy Perry with the big, you know, in California, and she has the big cupcake tits, or she's like blowing out whipped cream from them. That's parody. That's so over the top. That's not her saying this is female sexuality. This is playing with it. It's going so over the top that it's funny, or at least I hope it was. Otherwise, that's the most horrible video ever made, right? Gwen Stefani does it with Just a Girl. We saw she did it in Hollaback Girl, where she dressed up like a cheerleader. Fun fact, if you want to know, because I know all these random things, that the reason why Gwen Stefani did Hollaback Girl as a cheerleader is because Courtney Love from Hole, and who was Kurt Cobain's wife, said that she was a real rock girl. She wasn't a dumb cheerleader like Gwen Stefani. So Gwen Stefani came out with her as a cheerleader, but showing like she was kind of a badass cheerleader. Like it was a Hollaback, or she's not a Hollaback girl. She's gonna fight her, whatever. That's a whole other class. In the movie, you saw a parody of masculine roles. You had the realness category in military, where they're so over the top masculine, but in a gay ball. So they're sort of playing with the idea of masculinity by the context of it, right? And you saw in our presentations, the group that did Witch, and they're saying that the witches are back. So again, even if you're a Wiccan person who practices witchcraft, witches don't usually dress up in black pointy hats. So they're playing with that category of, you think we're a witch, then let's be witches, right? And sort of playing with the stereotype, parodying the claims against them, and then using that power to turn it back. So camp is a super kind of fun way to think about pop culture. Okay, so your activity number 2 is to watch Lady Gaga featuring Beyonce's telephone video. I will probably put it separate because you don't need to watch it all with me in here. But again, while you're watching it, what I want you to look for is hyper-femininity, incongruous juxtaposition. So where do you see masculine and feminine? Where do you see costume camp? And where do you see parody? I will post a video later of my own read of the telephone video, some of the things I saw. So if you want to double check if you're on the right track. And I'm also going to post about 5 more videos in your groups that you can choose one to play with. So the idea is I want everybody to watch at least this video and pull out some of these categories and talk about them. And if you are inspired, to watch some other videos and discuss them, because I think watching videos is fun. Okay, it might feel like a lot this week, but keep in mind, we're not gonna do papers. We're not gonna do a final. So what we're doing together here, like this is what we're doing for your grade. Do what you can in the time that you can, and I'll work with you if you can't make it. All right, I'll see you in the chat rooms.